Nothing cares about your struggle. The universe is indifferent to your pain. Success doesn't care if you deserve it. Failure doesn't care if you tried. The world owes you nothing. Not recognition, not reward, not fairness, not meaning. You were born, you will die. And between those two events, nothing is guaranteed except that time will pass whether you use it or waste it. And that's exactly why this is your power. No destiny, no grand plan written in the stars waiting for you to fulfill it. No cosmic force guiding you toward purpose. You're not the chosen one. You're not special. You're a temporary arrangement of atoms that gained consciousness and will lose it. That's it. No deeper meaning, no higher calling, just existence. And existence doesn't come with instructions or guarantees. No fairness. Good people suffer. Bad people win. Effort doesn't guarantee results. Talent doesn't guarantee success. Justice is a human concept, not a universal law. The universe operates on physics, not morality. It doesn't care who worked harder. It doesn't care who deserves more. It just is. And pretending otherwise is comforting, but it's fiction. No guarantees. You can do everything right and still lose. You can train perfectly and still fail. You can be disciplined and still not get what you want, because outcomes are influenced by countless variables you don't control. Luck, timing, other people's decisions, economic shifts, random chance. You control your actions, not their results. And accepting that is freedom. Most people break here. They hear these truths and collapse. They say if nothing matters, why try? If there's no meaning, why work? If success isn't guaranteed, why suffer? So they stop. They give up. They sit in their room scrolling through other people's lives, waiting for meaning to appear, waiting for motivation, waiting for purpose, waiting for someone to tell them it's all going to be okay. But no one comes, because no one is coming, and they rot in that waiting. They complain about unfairness, about how hard life is, about how they didn't ask to be born, about how they deserve better, and the universe doesn't respond. Because the universe doesn't care about their complaints. It doesn't care about their pain. It doesn't care if they're suffering. It just continues. Indifferent, cold, neutral. And their complaining changes nothing except wasting the limited time they have. They wait for meaning to find them, like it's hiding somewhere and one day it'll knock on their door. But meaning doesn't find you. You create it, or you don't. And if you don't, you live in the emptiness you refuse to fill. You become the void you were too afraid to face. And you spend your existence asking why, when the real question is why not. This is the shift. Right here, when you understand that if nothing matters externally, then nothing matters internally either. Your fear doesn't matter. Your doubt doesn't matter. Your need for approval doesn't matter. Your anxiety about what people think doesn't matter. Because if the universe is indifferent to you, then it's also indifferent to your limitations. Your fear is just neurons firing. It's not real. It's not a barrier, it's just sensation, and sensation can be ignored. If nothing matters, then failure doesn't matter. You can try and fail, and the universe won't judge you, won't punish you, won't care. So the fear of failure is meaningless. It's a self-imposed prison. You're afraid of an outcome that carries no cosmic weight, no universal consequence, just your ego's interpretation of events. And your ego is not the universe. It's just noise in your head. If nothing matters, then success doesn't matter either. Not in the way you think. You don't need it to validate your existence. You don't need it to prove your worth. Because your worth is a made-up concept anyway. You're atoms. Atoms don't have worth. They just exist. So you're free to pursue success without the weight of needing it. You can work toward it because you chose to, not because you have to, not because it means something cosmic, because you decided it's what you'll do with your time. Freedom begins when you stop needing the universe to care. When you stop waiting for permission, when you stop looking for signs, when you accept that you're alone in a neutral universe and that this aloneness is liberation, because now you can do whatever you want, build whatever you want, become whatever you want, not because it matters to the universe, because you chose it, and choice is the only power you actually have. Self-improvement becomes pure when you remove emotion from it. You don't train because you're inspired. You train because you decided to train. You don't eat clean because it feels good. You eat clean because that's the protocol. You don't wake early because you're motivated. You wake early because that's what you do. Emotion is irrelevant, it's just weather, and you don't let weather dictate your actions. Discipline without emotion is the strongest form, because emotional discipline breaks when the emotion fades. But cold discipline, that runs forever. It doesn't need fuel, it doesn't need hype, it just executes, day after day, without feeling, without caring, without needing a reason beyond. This is what I do. That's maturity, that's power, that's freedom from the tyranny of moods. Training without motivation is training that lasts. Motivation is a drug. It comes and goes. It makes you dependent, makes you wait for the high before you move. But if you train without it, you never need it. You become the kind of person who moves regardless, who executes in flatness, who builds in boredom. And that consistency compounds into something motivation could never create. Progress without validation is progress that's real. You don't post it. You don't announce it. You don't need people to see it to know it's happening. You track it privately. You measure it internally. You build in silence, because external validation is just another emotional dependency, and you're free from dependencies now. You validate yourself through action, through showing up, through consistency. That's the only validation that matters. Cold consistency becomes strength, not hot passion that burns out. Cold, emotionless, mechanical consistency. You do the thing because it's time to do the thing. Not because you feel like it. Not because it's exciting. Because it's scheduled. And you honor schedules because you decided to. That's it. No deeper reason required. And that cold approach builds more than any emotional commitment ever could. No hype. Hype is manipulation. It's emotional leverage. It's someone trying to make you feel enough to act. But you don't need to feel to act. You just act. You don't need someone screaming at you. You don't need dramatic music. You don't need a speech. You need a decision. And decisions don't require hype. They require commitment. And commitment is cold, calculated, emotionless. No inspiration quotes. Quotes are pacifiers. They make you feel productive without producing. They give you the emotional hit of progress without actual progress. You read them, you feel something, you scroll past, and nothing changes. But you think something changed because you felt something. That's the trap. Feeling is not doing, and you're done confusing the two. No audience. You build alone. You train alone. You grow alone. Not because you're antisocial, because you're serious. And serious work doesn't need spectators. It needs focus. It needs silence. It needs the absence of performance pressure. You're not performing. You're transforming. And transformation happens in private, where no one's watching, where there's no applause, just work, just execution. That's all that exists now. The decision, the action, the repetition. No story, no drama, no emotional arc, just task, complete task, next task, complete task, repeat until done, repeat until different, repeat until transformed. And none of it requires feeling, none of it requires meaning, it just requires doing. Life is chaos, random, absurd, meaningless, and you still train, you still build, you still improve, not because it matters to life, because you decided it matters to you, and your decision is the only meaning that exists. You create order in chaos. You create structure in randomness. You create purpose in meaninglessness. Not by finding it, by imposing it. You still show up, even knowing it might not work. Even knowing there's no guarantee. Even knowing the universe doesn't care. You show up anyway, because showing up is what you do. It's your protocol, your standard, your identity. And identity doesn't negotiate with reality, it just operates within it. You still build, knowing it's all temporary, knowing nothing lasts. Knowing entropy wins eventually, you build anyway, because the alternative is decay. And between building and decaying, you chose building. Not because building is meaningful, because building is active, and active is preferable to passive when you're conscious enough to choose. This is maturity, not finding meaning, creating it, not waiting for purpose, deciding it, not needing the universe to validate your existence, validating it yourself through action, through discipline, through the cold, emotionless execution of decisions you made in clarity. That's adulthood. That's power. That's freedom. Calm mind now. Not because everything's okay, everything's neutral. Not good, not bad, just is. And you've stopped needing it to be anything else. You've stopped fighting reality. You've accepted it. And acceptance doesn't mean surrender. It means you stop wasting energy on things you can't control and focus all energy on things you can. Low expectations, not pessimism, realism. You expect nothing from the universe, nothing from people, nothing from outcomes, so you're never disappointed, never crushed, never destroyed by unmet expectations. You're free, free to act without attachment to results, free to try without fear of failure, free to build without needing it to mean something cosmic. High standards for yourself. Not because you're worth it, because you decided to live this way. You set standards and you meet them, not for applause, not for recognition, for the satisfaction of being someone who does what they said they'd do. That's it. That's the entire reward structure. Keep your word to yourself. That's the game. Nothing to prove, not to the universe, not to people, not to yourself. You already know what you're capable of. You're testing it, expanding it, but you're not trying to prove anything. Proof implies an audience that cares. And there is no audience. There's just you. Alone. Building. And building doesn't require proof. It requires action. Nothing to fear. Fear is attachment to outcomes. And you're not attached to outcomes. You control actions. Outcomes happen. You observe them. You adjust. You continue. But you don't fear them. Because they don't define you. They're just data. Feedback. Information. Nothing more. You exist in a meaningless universe. And you chose to train anyway. To build anyway. To improve anyway. Not because it matters. Because you decided it's what you'll do with the time you have. And that decision is enough. It has to be. Because it's the only meaning that exists. Comment nothing owes me if you're done waiting for meaning.